The Wolf's Tide. A full-length fated mate story by Grace Cruz. Hope you enjoy as you listen. The stone bled cold. King Theon felt the chill seeping through the granite throne, despite the great hall's massive hearth roaring like a trapped beast. He sat motionless, watching the assembly of his mountain pack alphas gather below. Their faces were drawn, their winter coats thick. A primal, gnawing anxiety tightened the air like a noose. The northern patrols report another failure, Beta Eris announced, his voice tight. The usual ice fissures. They aren't freezing solid. The tunnels remain unstable. Unstable. The word tasted like ash on Theon's tongue, the very word he had publicly used to denounce Sela. He needed stability. He needed rock. Any hint of weakness felt like a personal failure, a crack in his carefully constructed armor of pride. Increase the structural bindings, Theon commanded, his voice deep and rough, like rock grinding against rock. Double the sentries on the North Pass. We are the mountain pack. We survive the frost. We do not surrender to it. Yet, Theon refused to believe in anomaly. He only believed in hard work and the strength of the pure mountain bloodline. His pack's history demanded self-sufficiency. They had to prove they needed no one. He glanced across the hall at Queen Lyra, whose pale, mountain-bred beauty was currently marred by a flicker of genuine terror. Even Lyra's fear was a weakness he struggled to tolerate. "My king," Lyra murmured, her voice a soft, frantic flutter. "Elder Corwin insists this cold. It is unnatural." He spoke of the earthbound hunger. Theon's eyes narrowed. "Corwin speaks of myths to frighten pups." "We face winter, Lyra. A long one. But then," Aris interjected, stepping forward nervously, "there is the matter of the supply cache near the old mine." It froze solid. "Not merely cold, King. It turned brittle, the steel barrels cracked like glass. The guard tore. He was found perfectly preserved, a statue of ice, but the flesh was withered inside." A collective, anxious shudder ran through the alphas. This wasn't a resource issue. This was something vicious. Theon felt a new, chilling sensation, a cold that didn't just numb, but felt like it was drawing the warmth out of the mountain itself. The deep chill was stirring. Theon stood, his tall, imposing figure dominating the hall. "Tor died, securing resources. That is the mountain way. We will seal the old mine. No more talk of myths or ancient curses. Our survival demands isolation and rejection of difference. If we show weakness, the other mountain territories will consume us. We stand alone. We stand strong. Is that understood?" A unified, though hesitant, "Yes, King Theon," echoed through the hall. Theon descended from the throne, passing Eris. "Send scout runners south. Quietly. They are to assess the Pass of Whispers for a potential supply run." "It is a necessary evil," he muttered, because he had to find a loophole that didn't involve Sela. He needed to be sure that the pass was still passable, which meant he was already admitting dependence, but only to himself. He paused by the massive carved map of the peaks. His gaze drifted far south, toward the unseen, salt-laced coast. What do you do when your strength is the very thing that is killing you? He shook the thought away. He would not fail his pack. But then, the granite under his heavy boot gave the faintest, almost imperceptible shiver. The deep chill was closer than he thought. Theon was down in the mine himself, directing the sealing operation. The air here was deadly. It wasn't just cold. It was an absolute zero that seemed to defy natural physics. The granite walls had a strange, frosted look, as if the world had been muted by death. "Drive the iron spikes deeper. We must anchor the ritual stones," Theon roared, his breath clouding instantly. In that moment, a sound ripped through the mountain, not a cave-in, but a sickening crack. A section of the ceiling dissolved into shimmering, cold dust. "It's not collapsing, it's disintegrating," Aris yelled, covering his eyes as crystalline particles sprayed the air. Without warning, the temperature dropped with dizzying speed. A wall of the deep chill erupted from the fractured ceiling, not a physical beast, but a sentient, malevolent void of cold, swirling like frozen smoke. Theon felt his powerful mountain wolf magic recoil and shrink. The chill was not fire or shadow, but a lack of all energy. It felt like his very will was being sucked dry. "Retreat! Fall back!" Theon yelled, shoving Lyra and the nearest wolves towards the tunnel. What followed was a terrifying display of the foe's power. The ancient foe swept through the cavern, A small group of wolves, trapped behind a sudden sheet of crystalline ice, beat against it fruitlessly. "My king, the armor!" One wolf cried out, his voice already thin and desperate. His iron breastplate glowed a faint, deathly blue. And then, just like that, everything changed. The metal shattered into 1,000 frozen shards. The wolf crumpled, not injured, but instantly lifeless, his spirit consumed. Terror, raw and immediate, finally pierced Theon's armor of pride. This is not winter. This is the earthbound hunger. Soon after, Theon found himself outside the mine, dragging Eris and Lyra through the snow. They were forced to seal the entrance, sacrificing nearly 24 wolves inside. The silence that followed was heavier than the rock itself. "The seal. It won't hold long," Eris whispered, grief making his breath stutter. The elder was right. Only the old lore. The water casket. The binding requires the water casket and a wielder of the ocean's call. Theon stood on the peak, the wind whipping his long, dark fur around him. He looked down at his pack, trapped and shivering, facing slow, certain death. Dependence is weakness, but the alternative is extinction. He imagined Sela's face, the humiliation she would demand. He could hear his own cruel words from a decade ago, unfit for the mountains. "Send a messenger," Theon ordered, his voice barely a rasp against the wind. "Fastest runner. Tell Luna Sela that King Theon begs for the repayment of his life's debt. Tell her, we are utterly lost." Meanwhile, back at the coastline, a sea-wolf pup named Leo, Theon's own son, was practicing water tricks under his mother's watchful eye, completely unaware that his estranged father had just signed away his kingdom for their salvation. The journey down the Pass of Whispers felt like a descent into purgatory. The air grew heavier, the scent of pine yielding to the sharp, corrosive smell of salt. Theon's muscles screamed for the dry, sparse air of the peaks, and all at once, everything changed when they reached the littoral zone. He stood at the tide line. The saltwater spray misted his dark, mountain-grown fur. It clung to him, making him feel heavy and exposed, because his element was denial of this fluid, unpredictable power. Across the water-slick rock stood Luna Sela. She was magnificent. Her black fur, often silver-tipped from the sea spray, seemed to absorb the light. She radiated an elemental power that felt utterly foreign, the relentless, untamable force of the deep ocean. Her gold eyes, the same fierce shade that Leo possessed, held not warmth, but the cool, immense depth of the seafloor. "King Theon," she greeted him, her voice low, a rhythmic counterpoint to the crashing waves. "It's been a long decade since you last sought the counsel of the unstable and unfit." Theon's ears burned. He could feel his old, familiar rage building, but then, he remembered the stillness of the frozen wolf in the mine. He suppressed the surge and lowered his head just enough a painful submission. "Sela," he rasped, the words scraped raw by pride. "I have not come for counsel. I come for the debt." Sela took a slow step forward. "The debt was repaid with a child banished from his father's sight, and a reputation you tore to shreds for the sake of a lineage that now cannot save you." She smiled, but it held no warmth. It was sharp and cold, like a spear of sea ice. "You want my aid, you want the ocean's call to save your stone heart, then the terms are mine." She was enjoying his humiliation, and Theon knew he deserved every agonizing second. He felt it clear as day, the immense, irreparable damage his own arrogance had wrought. "The deep chill is loosed," Theon stated, forcing himself to look at her. He didn't offer excuses, because excuses were another form of weakness. "It is consuming the life force of the mountain. Your element is the only thing that can bind it. I beg you, Sela, for the life you once saved, for our blood." Sela reached down and picked up a piece of driftwood, snapping it with effortless precision. "The life I saved," she began, the snapping wood echoing the break in their past, "forced me to protect our son, Leo, from your hatred of the sea. Do you know what it is like to raise a child who is half of the world you abandoned, teaching him to hide the best part of himself?" Theon could only shake his head. He had never considered her pain. His public betrayal had forced Sela to raise Leo with a burden. The constant need to prove his worth. This was the deep, unseen subplot, Leo's burden of the divided bloodline. "You want to save your mountain pack? You want my aid?" Sela's voice rose, matching the intensity of the crashing wave behind her. In the quiet that followed, her terms were laid bare. You will publicly, before all our packs, acknowledge the lie you told 10 years ago. You will admit that your pack lives because of the sea wolf sacrifice. Theon's chest ached. And all at once, everything changed. Leo, your water-aligned son, will take his place as the mountain pack's named heir, recognized as the bridge between the stone and the tide. His internal misbelief screamed, "This is submission! This is ruin!" But then, the image of the frozen, lifeless wolf flashed behind his eyes. "Done," Theon managed to say, the word a ragged sound torn from his chest. "The truth is yours. Leo is heir. Save my people, Sela. And the debt is settled." Sela didn't look triumphant, only deeply resolved. "The debt is never settled, Theon. It is merely transferred." She turned. "Prepare the Tide Riders. We march for the Pass of Whispers. You and I, the salt and the stone, ride together now." Theon stood alone, feeling the overwhelming presence of the sea. He knew his path forward was tied to the woman he had crushed and the element he had denounced. He had opened a door not just to salvation, but to a perilous intimacy with his own past, which meant the battle for his pride was about to begin in earnest. The air vibrated with Sela's commands. She moved among her Tide Riders, the elite Seawolf warriors, with the confidence of an alpha born to the waves. Sela focused only on logistics, pushing the humiliating past aside. "Theon's pride is not my concern," she reminded herself. "Only the chill in his mountains." Her warriors, lean and powerful, moved with a fluid grace. Theon's heavy-set, grounded wolves lacked. Even so, Sela felt Theon's heavy, judgmental stare from the edge of the camp. "Luna Sela," she heard his gruff, familiar voice. It made her fur prickle. "Why do your wolves carry nets? We go to the mountain, not fishing." She turned slowly, meeting his gaze. "We carry nets, Theon. Because the chill is a void, not a beast. Nets capture. Water binds. Your rock magic failed to contain it. We will use what works. Perhaps the sea magic you declared unfit is simply stronger than the traditions you cling to." Theon's jaw tightened. He wasn't just resisting her methods, he was resisting the truth of his decade-old mistake. "You misunderstand the mountains, Luna," he countered, his voice dripping with old pride. "We are patience and durability. We anchor the land. Your fluidity is chaos. Chaos saves lives, Theon." Sela retorted, stepping closer. The space between them burned, fueled by old desire and new resentment. "Your durability sacrificed 20 wolves yesterday. Do not mistake stubbornness for strength." But then, a figure emerged from the small cluster of sea wolf pups playing near the water. Leo, 10 years old, agile, with Theon's dark height but Sela's intense gold eyes. He carried a small water skin, carefully wrapped. "Mother," Leo said, his voice quiet. "I packed the healing kelp and the salt rune stones." Sela smoothed his hair back, a wave of tenderness washing over her that was meant only for him. "Good, my little anchor." Theon's eyes were locked on the boy. Sela saw the guilt and the fierce, possessive recognition flash in his stare. She felt it clear as day, a pull of primal fatherhood. He hadn't seen Leo since infancy. He is tall," Theon managed, his voice suddenly thick and awkward. "He is Seawolf." Sela corrected him firmly, using the title as a shield. "He is also the mountain pack heir now, as per your terms. Do you recognize him? Or will you retract your word before we even start?" Theon shifted uncomfortably, avoiding Leo's innocent but observant gaze. "I stand by my word," Theon admitted, the phrase sounding like a promise and a punishment all at once. He simply nodded once to Leo, a formal, distant gesture. Sela sighed internally. He will learn to love his son, or lose everything. She focused on the mission. "We move now. Mountain wolves take the lead. You know the shifting terrain. But the Tide Riders will set the pace, because we must reach the chill zone before it solidifies the pass." As the wind shifted, carrying the faint, cold scent of the distant mountains, Sela watched her pack fall into formation. The sight of their combined forces, rock and water, caution and speed, felt necessary, but profoundly unsettling. "The Pass of Whispers awaits, Theon," Sela said, her gaze steady. "Let us see if the Mountain King can still walk on uncertain ground." They moved in awkward formation through the pass. Theon led, but Sela's presence felt like a constant current at his flank. In the span of a breath, the familiar mountain air grew thin and stagnant. The pass felt like the rock was actively rejecting their presence. Theon kept looking back at Sela, whose pace was relentless. Why is she so fast? He wondered. Is she simply mocking my mountain strength? His frustration boiled. He hated feeling incompetent in his own kingdom. We need to hold here. Luna, Theon ordered, halting his advance. The shadows are too long. They obscure the fissures. It's safer to wait for the morning light to map the path. Sela stopped instantly, her gold eyes flashing disapproval. We do not wait, Theon. The deep chill thrives in stasis. Every moment of patience is a victory for it. Patience is how the mountain survives, Theon argued, his voice low and dangerous. Haste breaks bone. But then, the ground beneath them shifted. Not a slide, but a seismic shudder, violent and deep. Whum. Small chunks of granite rained down from the cliffs above, hitting the rocks with sharp, painful cracks. This is not a quake, Sela yelled, her voice strained. The air turned instantly frigid. It's the chill. It's manipulating the foundation. Theon instinctively looked for cover, a stable overhang, a deep fissure. Find the anchor. Get to the ridge, he shouted. We anchor there. Use the roots. Sela didn't move toward the ridge. She did the opposite. She dropped low to the ground and plunged both hands onto the shaking earth, closing her eyes. Her body tensed, and a faint, silver light, like moonlight, caught on wet sand, pulsed from her palms. Water is friction, Theon, Sela cried, her voice strained. It fills the cracks, not an anchor, a net. Everyone use your hands. Feel the flow. The mountain wolves hesitated, their eyes wide with fear and confusion. Touch the unstable earth? It defied every tenet of mountain wolf survival. Deep down, he knew the truth. His way was failing. Do it, Theon roared, his authority overriding his ingrained caution. Without thinking, he mirrored Sela, slamming his own hands onto the vibrating rock. He didn't feel stability. He felt a terrifying, fluid movement beneath his hands. As the bond pulsed, he realized Sela wasn't stopping the quake. She was riding it. She was channeling water energy into the microfractures of the rock, essentially lubricating them to absorb the shockwave rather than resist it. In the span of a breath, the shaking intensified, throwing a sea-wolf warrior off balance. Theon, acting purely on instinct and loyalty, lunged forward, grabbing the warrior's arm. The warrior's packmate secured them both. The mountain still shivered, but the core energy of the quake passed harmlessly beneath them. Theon pulled himself back, breathing heavily. Sela slowly stood, looking utterly drained. The silver glow was gone. You tried to fight the mountain, Theon, she whispered, her voice husky with exertion. We taught it to dance. Theon felt raw humiliation mingle with a terrifying respect. He hated her methods, yet they worked. He had relied on her. He had submitted to her command in his own territory. This was the plot twist. His enemy was his necessary savior, and his element was useless. The chill is active, Theon stated, wiping sweat from his brow. It's trying to seal us in the pass. It is not cold. It is the earthbound hunger, and it is awake. He looked at Sela. The tension between them was palpable, the heavy, charged air of two magnets fighting their way toward a collision. How much more of my pride must I sacrifice before she trusts me? The cold was unforgiving. It pressed against the cave entrance, relentless and silent. Theon and Sela were forced into close quarters near the entrance to monitor the chill's slow, creeping advance. Theon sat in silence, brooding. He felt it clear as day, the desperate need to apologize, an urge that warred violently with his pride. He watched Sela. She wasn't cold. Her skin seemed to shimmer slightly, radiating a quiet, internal warmth. In the stillness that followed the quake, Theon finally spoke, his voice low. Leo, he has your eyes. And your determination. Sela leaned back against the cold rock, sighing. He has your stubbornness too, Theon. He tries to hide his affinity for the water, because he knows how much the mountain pack despises it. He thinks you rejected us both for that reason. Theon's chest ached. I didn't reject the water. I rejected weakness. I rejected the dependence that saving us created. And what was my saving act? If not strength? Sela challenged. her gold eyes locking onto his. I defied my own family to bring you food across 3 territories. That was not dependence, Theon. That was a gift of sacrifice. And you threw it back in my face, because your pride was more important than the truth. With every heartbeat, Theon felt the weight of his betrayal. It was politics, Sela, not hatred. The Mountain Lords would never have accepted a sea-wolf mate. It would have meant war, or submission. I chose the third way. Isolation. You chose the cowardly way, she corrected, her voice soft but lethal. You chose to hurt the one person who risked everything for you, instead of fighting for both of us. The silence returned, heavier now, filled with unspoken regret and lingering desire. Sela broke it by offering him a small, dried kelp ration. Eat. You need the salt. Your body is fighting the cold too fiercely. Theon accepted it. Their fingers brushed. The contact was brief, yet explosive, sparking a memory of warmth in the depths of the icy cave. We had that cave, didn't we? Theon murmured, referring to the hidden shelter they shared a decade ago, before the betrayal. We had everything, Sela countered, her breath catching slightly. And you traded it for an idea of strength. They were here now, pressed close by necessity, battling the consequences of his choice. Theon reached out, not as a king, but as a desperate wolf, and gently touched the silver tip of her ear. I was wrong, Sela. I was profoundly wrong about your strength, and all at once, everything changed with the cold. I see that now. Sela leaned into the touch for just a moment, a rare flash of vulnerability. Do you truly, Theon? Or do you just need my magic? Under the weight of his stare, Sela pulled back, her alpha resilience snapping into place. Tell me about the water casket, she commanded, switching abruptly to the mission. We need to find a way to access it. It's too dangerous now. Theon took a breath, the cold air scraping his throat. It's in the heart of the peaks, beneath the sacred pool. The deep chill is already surrounding that area, but then, there's another challenge. The entrance is guarded by a mountain wolf ritual lock. One that requires 2 bloodlines to open. A mountain. And a sea. Sela's head snapped up, her eyes wide. The lock requires 2 bloodlines? Why? It was meant as a safeguard, Theon explained. To prevent internal strife from destroying the mountain. Only unified command could release the ultimate weapon. He paused, a grim realization dawning on him. Sela, we need Leo. His mixed blood is the key. Theon's rejection of Leo 10 years ago directly created the only being capable of saving them now. As the bond pulsed again, this time with the shared realization of their son's critical role, they both knew the stakes had been raised past their personal rivalry and into the realm of destiny. Leo is the key. Theon's voice was a low, heavy rumble that echoed the stone walls. Sela stared at him, the revelation of the lock requiring the mixed bloodline hitting her like a physical blow. You designed a safeguard that demanded the one thing you publicly cast out, Sela accused, her voice trembling with a mixture of disbelief and fury. It was for balance, Theon insisted, running a frustrated hand through his fur. The mountain founders believed that without the sea's counsel, the stone would become too brittle, too prideful. They knew the danger of isolation. You didn't just banish me, Theon. You severed your own future, Sela whispered, the anger yielding to a devastating sadness. Now, after 10 years of keeping him safe, you want me to bring him into the deep chill, the force that turns flesh to dust? But then, Sela's alpha instincts took over. Leo was the key. He had to be protected, but he also had to be present. She grabbed Theon's massive hand. The contrast was stark. Her lean, sea-hardened fingers against his thick, mountain-worn palm. We go back now, Sela commanded, her gaze blazing with fierce resolve. We retrieve Leo. But understand this, King. If any harm comes to him, if you hesitate for even a breath, I will bind the chill with your life, and let the sea swallow your peaks. Theon didn't flinch. I swear it, Sela. Leo is my priority. My life is the price of this alliance. Because my choices led us here. After that, they moved. The only language was strategy. They chose the 3 fastest wolves from each pack, a mixed cohort, to form the retrieval unit. This was the first significant test of the alliance. Instead of following the main pass, Sela guided them onto a difficult, little-known lateral trail, a riskier path, but faster. Theon found himself trusting her direction without question. navigating switchbacks based on the sound of rushing unseen streams, rather than the stable sight of rock face. Next, they stopped only once, pausing for water and a moment of shared, strained silence. "How do you know this path so well?" Theon asked, genuinely curious. Sela looked out at the distant, familiar coastline. "When you sent me away, I spent months mapping every weakness in your peaks, because I swore I would be ready if you ever came for Leo." Her words were another painful reminder of his betrayal. Theon looked at her, seeing her not as the alpha he needed, but as the woman he had irrevocably hurt. The moment their eyes locked, the weight of their history became heavier than the mountain itself. They both knew the only thing that could save their people was the very love Theon had destroyed. The change in atmosphere was instant. Leaving the cold, grasping silence of the pass for the Sea Wolf village felt like stepping from a tomb into a vibrant garden. By the time they reached the main lookout, Leo was already running towards Sela, having sensed her approach. "Mother!" Leo cried, his voice clear and bright. He stopped short, however, his gold eyes widening as they landed on the massive dark figure of Theon and his rigid, dark-furred mountain wolves. "Leo," Sela knelt, hugging him fiercely. She felt it clear as day, the tremor of fear in his small body. Theon stood stiffly, unable to approach. His heart skipped as he took in his son. "This is King Theon," Sela stated, her voice formal. "He is here to ask for your aid." Leo did not look at Theon. He clung to Sela. "The stone people. Are they going to take us back to the mountains?" The question, so innocent, yet so loaded, was a punch to Theon's gut. His son viewed his true father as a terrifying, possessive stranger. Sela looked directly at Theon, her expression daring him to fail this test. Theon knew he had to speak the truth. "No, Leo," Theon said, dropping slowly to one knee, bringing his immense height closer to the boy's level. His voice trembled slightly, unused to such open vulnerability. "We are not here to take you. I am here because I need you. Because the mountain is dying, and only the bridge can save it." He pointed to the small, subtle patch of darker fur on Leo's chest, the seawolf mark. "You are the bridge, Leo. You are half rock and half tide. And the Founders made a safeguard that requires the strength of both. I am here to tell you, before your entire pack, that I was wrong to ever doubt the sea. I was wrong to ever send you away." Theon reached out and placed a rough, gentle hand on Leo's shoulder. "I publicly declare you, Leo, son of Sela, as the rightful heir to the Craghold Peaks. I need you to help save your people, not just my pack, but your people." The sea wolves murmured, stunned by the formal declaration. Leo looked up, his gold eyes wide and searching. Theon had shed his pride for his son and his pack, fulfilling the first condition of Sela's alliance. Before either could speak, the ground beneath the coast, usually stable, gave a long, unsettling grind. Sela felt the elemental shift immediately. Her instincts surged. "The chill is moving faster than we thought. It's extending its reach to the Pass of Whispers. It's trying to seal the whole mountain off." "It knows," Theon growled, rising instantly. "It knows we found the key." As the world tilted, Leo, though terrified, didn't run. He looked at Sela, then back at Theon, the new king who had knelt before him. "Mother," Leo asked, his voice steadying, "what do I have to do?" Sela put a hand on Leo's back, a fierce pride in her gaze. That night, the alliance, relational, political, and elemental, was forged in fire and ice. They had their key, but they now faced a race against time, which meant they had to trust each other completely. The ascent back into the pass was a grueling test of their new partnership. Theon was forced to adjust to Sela's relentless, winding pace. His thoughts spun with frustration. "You're exposing your flank, Luna," Theon hissed to Sela, his voice catching on the biting wind. Sela moved with her customary fluidity. "The chill sees predictable structure as a target, Theon. We move like water over rock, constantly shifting. We use the flow to guide us, not the anchor." At the same time, Leo, who was walking between his parents, was proving her point. He was subtly interacting with the cold. Sela watched Leo reach out and gently touch a sheer rock face that was dangerously frosted. But then, Leo's touch caused a faint, audible hiss. The ice didn't melt. It retreated, forming a thin, navigable channel of damp, unfrozen rock directly beneath his hand. "Leo is creating safe passage," Sela murmured, pride heavy in her tone. His dual alignment lets him negotiate with the elements, not just fight them. Mountain wolf strength would have shattered that ice. Leo coaxes it away. Theon watched his son, a rush of powerful, unfamiliar emotion overwhelming him. I cast out the very thing I needed, Theon thought, the realization deepening the shame. Despite that successful cooperation, Theon noticed a more pressing danger. The chill was learning. It was targeting the sea wolves specifically. What's worse, one mountain wolf, Gorok, still distrusted the alliance. We are exposed here, Gorok barked, breaking rank and trying to secure a ledge with a large, unstable slab of granite. Gorok, hold! Theon commanded. Sela understood the danger instantly. Gorok's resistance was exactly the predictable force the chill was seeking. As if summoned, a fissure opened in the slab Gorok was gripping, and the deep chill surged upward, focusing its draining energy directly on the mountain wolf. Water shield! Sela yelled, throwing her hands out. A shimmering curtain of cold, pressurized mist erupted from the water pouch at her hip, enveloping Gorok. The mist was not warm, but it created an impenetrable barrier of pure elemental contrast. The deep chill shrieked a high, unnatural sound that made their teeth ache and retreated. Unable to consume the water's moving defense, Gorok was saved, but he stared at Sela with a look of terrified awe. Theon saw his own prejudice reflected back. We must move faster, Sela insisted, looking at the distant, highest peak. The chill is intelligent. It knows we are close to the sacred pool where the casket rests. It will not allow us to complete the ritual. Theon looked at the retreating cold. His methods, defense, conservation, brute force had been nullified. Sela's fluidity, elemental contrast, aggression were the only defense. Theon made a quiet, decisive move. Sela, take the lead, he stated, his voice final. I will anchor your rear guard. Your tactics are necessary here. I yield command. Under Sela's command, the pace increased dramatically. They used a combination of mountain wolf climbing expertise and sea wolf elemental agility. But then, as they crested the ridge, a terrifying sight met their eyes. The landscape around the sacred pool was now a dead, monochrome expanse. The deep chill had already completely encased the entrance to the casket chamber. It was a solid, black mass of anti-life, pulsating with malevolence. It anticipated us, Theon ground out, his voice laced with dread. But the deep chill had done more than just block the entrance. It had created a trap. As the wind shifted, carrying a different scent, a metallic, sharp tang of ozone, Sela realized the trap was aimed directly at the bridge. Leo, down! Sela screamed. Before she could move, a concentrated spike of solidified elemental ice, sharp as a dagger, shot from the black mass. It bypassed the mountain wolf's rock defenses and sliced through the pressurized water shield, targeting Leo. Theon reacted instantly, not as a king, but as a father. Sela watched Theon launch himself forward, shielding Leo with his massive body. The spike didn't pierce Theon, but it achieved a devastating purpose. The deep chill's energy struck Theon's upper arm, where the old, thick pack brand lay. The energy, designed to consume life, surged into Theon. The Mountain King was now physically infected by the consuming cold. Theon collapsed with a strangled cry of pain, the cold spreading instantly, numbing his entire left side. In the span of a breath, the deep chill consolidated its position, sealing the mountain path entirely. It had failed to kill the key, Leo, but it had succeeded in crippling the mountain anchor Theon and trapping the entire alliance. The chill proved its strategy was superior. Theon was not only incapacitated but infected. His failure to anticipate the targeted attack on the bloodline proved his old survival tactics were still flawed. Leo, seeing his father injured for the first time, stared wide-eyed at the black mass, his small body trembling. Sela realized the devastating cost of this alliance. We can't open the lock, Mother, Leo whispered, tears freezing on his cheeks. He can't use his hand. Sela looked from the incapacitated Theon, his face pale, his breath shallow to the pulsing black chill blocking their way. The only way forward now was to aggressively challenge the heart of the mountain's darkness, which meant she would need to be ruthless. Sela worked quickly, her hands glowing faintly silver with elemental power as she focused her water magic on Theon's frozen wound. Sela used the water's ability to transfer energy, drawing the toxic chill from his packmark. Theon was shifted back to his human form, his massive, injured body, shivering violently. The chill isn't just freezing, Sela murmured, her voice tight with concentration. It consumes the will. If I can't get this out, it will take over his nervous system. You shouldn't be risking your energy, Luna, Theon managed, his teeth chattering. Save it for the chill. I risk it, because if you die, the lock remains sealed, and the mountain dies. Sela snapped, masking her deep anxiety with professional focus. But then, her hands softened. The warmth she was generating through her magic was an act of profound intimacy. The magic transfer felt less like healing and more like a shared, desperate coupling of their opposed elements. Theon, Sela said softly, her voice close to his ear. You got this scar, this mark the night you were made king. Didn't you? He nodded weakly. I know this mark, she continued, her voice heavy with shared history. It doesn't just bind the king to the peak. It binds him to the blood oath. You didn't betray me just for politics. You betrayed me because this mark told you to reject what wasn't stone. He winced, not just from the cold, but from the unbearable truth. I was a fool, Theon confessed, the words burning with shame. The mountain taught me that survival means cutting off the diseased limb. I thought you were the disease. Sela finally pulled the worst of the toxic chill out, condensing it into a small, glittering blue sphere that she instantly vaporized. Exhaustion hit her. She slumped against the rock, breathing heavily. The elemental poison is gone, Sela announced, her voice ragged. But your arm is weak. It will heal, but you cannot use it for the lock. You are vulnerable now, Theon. Theon looked at her, his pride shattered. Then you must lead. You must be the anchor, Sela. I am merely the stone now, and you are the tide. The moment their eyes locked, Sela saw not the proud king who betrayed her, but the exhausted, humbled wolf who had thrown himself in front of their son. This was a moment of true, earned vulnerability and trust. Next, Sela knew they couldn't stay here. Their only chance was to descend, find another route to the casket, and figure out how to open the lock without Theon's full strength. Theon moved slowly, favoring his left arm, which felt like dead weight, a constant, freezing reminder of his failure. Sela's new voice of command cut through the icy air. We descend now, not up. The chill has sealed the peak, because it expects us to force the lock. We will go low, find the ancient under-river passage, and enter the casket chamber from below the freezing line. Gorok, the mountain beta who distrusted Sela, stepped forward. Luna, that under-river passage is unstable, even in summer, with the chill feeding on the rock. It is our only option, Gorok, Sela cut him off, her tone sharp, absolute. The mountain may fail, but water remains fluid. We will use the river's current to move us, not resist us. But then, Theon stepped forward, positioning himself directly beside Sela. He looked Gorok straight in the eye. My word is final, Theon stated, his voice quiet but commanding. Luna Sela leads this mission. Her methods saved your life yesterday, Gorok. We follow the tide now. Any hesitation is treason to the pack. He had publicly and completely surrendered his authority. After that, the descent began. It was a terrifying, fluid movement. Sela used her water magic to create slick, guided paths on the icy rock. The mountain wolves had to trust their entire weight to the water, a terrifying sensation. Meanwhile, Leo moved ahead, a small, essential guide. He would touch the water-slicked surfaces, and a faint, protective film of energy would stabilize the passage for a moment. Sela felt a fierce surge of maternal pride and renewed romantic desire for Theon. They were working as a true pair, each compensating for the other's weakness. The river passage is ahead, Sela whispered to Theon. Once we're in, there's no turning back. The currents will carry us directly into the chill's domain. Theon looked at the fissure. It was small, cold, and promised claustrophobic terror. He looked at Sela. The space between them burned with urgency and shared peril. Lead the way, Luna. Theon nodded, his resolve unbreakable. I am the stone that steadies your current. Let's ride the tide. The under-river passage was a sensory nightmare. The water was icy and fast, tearing at their bodies. Sela's water magic protected their lungs and eyes. In that moment, they were truly isolated, stripped down to their primal selves. Sela was leading. Theon, hindered by his wounded arm, struggled to maintain his position behind her. Without warning, the current ahead intensified, becoming a violent, sickening whirlpool. The chill had found them. The rock is failing, Theon choked out, his voice muffled. The walls around them began to collapse inward. Sela knew she couldn't fight the whirlpool. She had to ride it and guide it past the choke point. "Grab my arm," Sela yelled, the sound amplified by the water magic. Theon, pride screaming defiance, hesitated for a crucial beat. But then, a huge slab of granite tore loose and slammed into his right leg. A flash of searing pain forced his hand. Theon knew he was lost if he didn't trust her. He reached out, his massive hand closing around Sela's forearm. Sela immediately locked her water magic onto him, channeling her elemental power into his body for propulsion. With every heartbeat, Sela pulled, pushing them both through the tightening choke point. For Theon, it was total submission. It was an act of profound, physical dependence. They shot through the constriction and burst out into a wide, dark cavern, the antechamber beneath the sacred pool. Theon lay sputtering on the cold, damp stone, his body shaking from cold and humiliation. Sela stood over him, breathing hard. "You hesitated," Sela observed, her voice flat. "The stone almost killed you." "Theon." "I know," Theon rasped, finally shedding the last vestiges of his misplaced pride. "I am yours, Luna. Do what you must to save the peaks." Leo stood before the massive, sealed door, the two-blood lock. It was immense, etched with twin runes. Sela knelt beside him. Theon sat against the wall, watching them with an agonizing helplessness. "Theon cannot use his mountain energy to activate the peak rune," Sela explained. "But Leo, your blood carries the full lineage of the Mountain King and the power of the tide. You are the key." "What if I fail, Mother?" Leo whispered, his voice small. "You will not fail," Sela assured him. "You are strength, Leo. You must embrace both." Sela turned to Theon. "Theon. Leo needs an anchor. Give him your full memory of the peak. Show him his strength." Theon nodded, swallowing his pain. He channeled his remaining mountain energy toward Leo. It was a focused memory, the feeling of stable rock, the scent of high-altitude pine. Leo shuddered as the mountain energy, his father's deep, protective loyalty, flowed into him. And just like that, everything changed. He felt whole. The division he'd carried for 10 years vanished. Sela stood, placing her hands on the wave rune. Leo, taking a deep breath, placed his small hand on the peak rune. As Sela channeled the flowing, rhythmic tide, Leo channeled the static, powerful stone. The twin runes glowed fiercely, silver for the sea, deep red for the mountain. The tension broke with a deep, resonant clang. The lock whirred, and the massive granite door slowly groaned inward, revealing the sacred pool chamber. The chamber was vast, lit by a luminous, powerful body of unfrozen, glowing water. But then, the victory was immediately marred. From the glowing pool, a shadow stretched out, massive and cold. The deep chill was waiting. "You cannot bind me with unity," the chill shrieked, its voice 1,000 whispers of frozen wind. "Because that unity is fleeting. I feast on doubt and division." The chill lashed out, targeting Leo's mind, projecting a terrifying vision. Sela pushing Theon into the abyss. Leo stumbled back, horrified, his energy shield sputtering. The chill's final, devastating power was emotional warfare. The chill's successful exploitation of the doubt and trauma they had just overcome. "We cannot trust each other," the chill roared. "I will divide you. And I will feast." The deep chill's emotional assault was devastating. "She will leave you to freeze, just like you left her to drown in shame." The chill's voice, a chorus of whispering frost, clawed at Theon's mind. At the same time, Sela's mind was ravaged by a counter-illusion. Theon declaring the boy's half-blood, a weakness that must be excised. "He will betray the child, Luna. He only uses your magic. He will cast the tide out. Forever." Sela recoiled violently, her water magic sputtering. She looked at Theon, who was struggling to stand on his compromised leg, his face contorted in a silent struggle. But then, the chill exploited his weakness. It projected the image of Lyra, whispering, "Your bloodline is the threat," Theon faltered. Not only that, but the chill had a physical objective, the water casket. "The casket!" Sela screamed, snapping out of the illusion as she saw the churning black shadow moving toward the glowing ritual bowl. The chill lashed out, not with cold, but with a mental paralyzer. Sela struggled, her power spiking wildly. "Leo, move!" Theon roared, his authority overriding the paralysis for a crucial second. Leo scrambled toward the pool, grabbed the casket, and desperately pulled it back. But then, the chill focused its power on the bowl itself. The metal of the casket began to screech. In the span of a breath, the casket shattered. It simply disintegrated into shimmering dust. The physical tool required to contain the chill was gone. The chill pulsed, its power surging, and it seemed to laugh, a silent, consuming dread. "The elements are mine. Your pride destroyed your tool. Your alliance is worthless." Theon fell back against the granite wall, his heart pounding a slow, funerary rhythm. The casket was dust. His pack was trapped. "I failed them." Sela knelt beside the weeping Leo, clutching him fiercely. She felt it clear as day, the crushing weight of the centuries-old burden of the sea wolves. Sacrifice, followed by scorn. "We lost the casket, Sela," Theon whispered, his voice hoarse with defeat. "The mountain will freeze. My pack will be consumed. And it is all because I was afraid to be weak." Gorok, the mountain beta, slowly approached Theon. "King," Gorok rasped, his eyes haunted. "We should have listened to the sea alpha. We should have trusted the debt. We chose the easy truth you gave us." He laid his hand on Theon's good shoulder. "Lead us one last time, my king. Lead us in the last stand." Theon looked at Sela. His duty was redemption. "There is no stand, Gorok," Theon stated, his voice flat with terrible finality. "There is only the debt. The chill needs life energy to solidify its freedom." He slowly pushed himself upright. "I will not let my fear kill them all." "Sela," Theon called out, his voice strong enough to carry across the chamber. The chill paused its advance. "I am the source of the chill's interest. My blood, my power, is rooted in the mountain's core. If I am consumed, the chill might be satiated, or at least weakened enough for you to escape with Leo. I will go to the heart of the chill's influence," Theon continued. "The debt is not settled. My life is yours, Luna. Use it to save our son." Sela finally looked up, her gold eyes blazing with furious rejection. Her voice trembled with the force of her emotion. "You think you get to sacrifice yourself now? You think martyrdom settles the score, Theon? After everything you destroyed?" The sight of Theon offering his life fueled Sela's defiance. He was trying to settle the debt on his own terms again. "Get up, Theon," Sela commanded, her voice fierce. "You don't get to choose when you die. The cost of your pride is not your life. It's the continued survival of the bridge. Your sacrifice is the last thing the chill wants," Sela declared. "It wants prideful death. It wants the mountain to consume itself. If you die now, the energy simply transfers to the chill, strengthening it. The binding is lost," Theon argued, confusion dulling his despair. "The ocean's call has no anchor without the casket." Sela stared at the churning, consuming shadow of the chill. Her eyes widened. "The casket was only a focus," Sela explained, her mind racing. "The chill is anti-life. We will drown it, using the destructive, forbidden power of the sea's ultimate destruction." "What are you talking about, Luna?" Theon demanded. "Instead of binding the chill, we will drown it," Sela stated, her voice trembling. "The sea element can destroy, not just shield. We will use the sacred pool not to contain the chill, but to flood it with pure, elemental destruction. But the power needed is immense, and the mountain. The mountain will resist the sudden influx of water," Theon cautioned. "It will resist, yes," Sela nodded, looking at Theon. "But you are the king of the mountain. You will give the rock permission to break. You will be the anchor that guides the destructive tide. You will not sacrifice yourself. You will sacrifice your mountain's isolation." Theon understood. Theon stood before his remaining mountain pack wolves, his stance rigid. His internal flaw was permanently purged. "The casket is gone," Theon stated, his voice ringing with absolute finality. "The chill feeds on our pride and our fear of dependence. I led you to isolation, and isolation has failed us." He looked directly at Gorok. "I offer no more promises of stone strength. I offer only the truth. Luna Sela's method is the only path. We will not bind the chill. We will drown it." He lowered his head fully to Sela, his gaze unwavering. "My life is no longer a price, Luna. It is a tool. The mountain will resist your flood. I will be the anchor that guides the destructive tide. I will give the rock permission to break, because this sacrifice is not for my pride, but for the life of my pack, and our son, Leo. Sela met his gaze. The moment their eyes locked, she saw the truth of his loyalty, clean and pure. The chill will try to consume your mental control, Theon, Sela warned. You must hold the image of Leo. Sela turned to the combined packs. Tide Riders. You will open the ancient sluices. Mountain Wolves. You will form the outer perimeter and guard the psychological line. Resist the chill's illusions. We move now. The sacred pool is our last chance. Sela stood at the edge of the sacred pool. The deep chill, sensing the aggressive intent, swelled into a massive, churning vortex of black frost, howling with fury. You have no container. You have no shield. I will feast on your desperate attempt. The chill roared. Sela dropped to her knees and plunged her hands deep into the glowing water. She didn't call upon the gentle water of life, but the forbidden, crushing power of the deep tides unwanted. The water around her hands began to turn a terrifying, opaque black. Meanwhile, Theon, supported by Gorok, was channeling his mountain energy. He was creating pathways, mentally sacrificing the isolation of his beloved mountain. Break, mountain! Theon strained, sweat freezing on his brow. Yield to the salt! For Leo! Sela unleashed the attack. Drown! Sela screamed, throwing her arms wide. The black, destructive tide erupted from the pool, not flowing, but surging a massive, silent, crushing wave of elemental negation. The chill shrieked a sound of pure elemental agony. It lashed out at Sela, attacking her mind with crippling visions of her failure and Theon's death. Even so, Theon's anchor held. His mental command yield, yield, yield forced the chamber's bedrock to give way. Theon was the resistance that channeled the attack. Sela was the attack itself. The space between them burned with the sheer force of the channeled elements. The mountain wolves stood firm against the chill's illusions. The black tide crashed into the deep chill. It was a silent, terrifying battle. Theon fought a mental battle to hold the anchor, his willpower all that prevented the black tide from consuming the chamber itself. But then, the chill made one final, desperate move. It abandoned the fight with Sela's tide and lunged directly for Theon. You are weakness! You are isolation! The chill shrieked, striking Theon's heart. Theon gasped, feeling the consuming cold try to invade his core. He was seconds from collapse. Without thinking, Sela reacted. She channeled a small, pure stream of the pool's remaining luminous, life-giving water, and drove it into Theon's chest. It was a declaration of belonging. The sea wolf element, the element of life and connection, rushed into the Mountain King. The contradiction, the combination of total isolation and absolute connection, was too much for the deep chill. And just like that, everything changed. The chill shrieked one last agonizing sound of defeat, unable to consume an entity that was both utterly broken and utterly whole. The massive shadow retracted, collapsing inward, and was instantly devoured by the black tide. Silence. The black tide immediately drained. The deep chill was gone. Sela rushed to Theon, who was slumped against the wall, breathing heavily but alive. She checked his pulse, her touch tender. It accepted the contradiction, Sela whispered, leaning her forehead against his. The mountain yielded, and the sea connected. We didn't just save the peaks, Theon. We saved the meaning of the mountain. Theon managed a weak, genuine smile. The moment their eyes locked, it was salt and stone. Unified, victorious, and profoundly connected. Gorok and the mountain wolves flooded the chamber, not with relief, but with reverence. Leo rushed to his parents, no longer afraid, but bursting with pride. Days later, the great hall was filled with the remnants of the mountain pack. They were exhausted, injured, but alive. Theon stood before them, upright despite his splinted arm. Sela stood beside him, her presence regal. Leo stood slightly in front of them, a silent, powerful testament to their alliance. Theon looked out at his people. His internal flaw was permanently purged. My people, Theon began, his voice rough but clear. 10 years ago, in this very hall, I committed an unforgivable act of political cowardice. He paused, gathering his strength. He saw Sela's steady gaze. I feared the judgment of our neighbors. I feared that accepting aid made us weak. So I rejected her sacrifice, and I declared her people, the sea wolves, unstable and unfit for the mountains. That was a lie, born of my pride. Theon knelt, sinking slowly onto his good knee before Sela and Leo. This submission was not forced. It was chosen. Today, you stand here alive, because of the very strength I rejected. The deep chill was not defeated by rock, but by the ocean's call, channeled by Luna Sela. We owe the sea wolf pack a debt of life that cannot be repaid. He rose, placing his hand, the wounded, humbled hand, on Leo's shoulder. And I publicly acknowledge my son, Leo of the Tide and the Peak, as the rightful heir to the Craghold Peaks. He is the bridge between our peoples, and his dual heritage is not a weakness, it is the ultimate strength. The mountain pack did not protest. They roared not with aggression, but with unburdened relief and acceptance. The alliance is forged, Theon declared, looking at Sela. Forever. The debt is transferred not to gold, but to mutual guardianship. Theon's private quarters were stark. Sela had come to speak with him alone. You did well, Theon. You broke yourself to save your kingdom. The pride is gone. Theon looked at his wounded hand, then at her. It's a strange feeling. To be strong because you admit defeat. He chuckled. A rough, unfamiliar sound. Sela, I owe you everything. I know that, and I owe Leo a decade of fatherhood. Do you stay? Theon asked, his voice low, heavy with unspoken hope. Sela shook her head slowly. No, Theon. My place is the sea. My pack needs me, and Leo needs to grow up knowing both the tide's freedom and the peak's stability. He will spend his time between the two kingdoms, the bridge that he is. She offered him a final, profound gesture of trust. I leave you with the knowledge of the deep tides unwanted. And I leave you the path to the under river. It is an open, permanent route now. Sela stepped closer. She reached out and touched his cheek, her fingers cool against his rough skin. You proved your loyalty, Theon, Sela whispered. You proved that your heart is in the right place. But the price of betrayal, even when redeemed, is the loss of what was once whole. Theon closed his eyes, accepting the finality. Sela pulled him into a brief, fierce embrace, a hug of partners, not lovers. The Mountain King had his freedom, earned through sacrifice, and a son who would carry both elements, ensuring the peaks would never fall to pride again. Come morning, 2 years later, the Pass of Whispers was no longer treacherous, it was the pass of trade. Leo, now 12, stood at the entrance to the pass. He was dressed in a blend of both cultures. He smelled faintly of both pine resin and sea salt. He was accompanied by 2 guards, Gorok, the mountain beta, who now wore a small silver wave pendant, and a young tide rider from Sela's pack. They stood side by side, sharing a laugh. King Theon stood watching, his scarred arm resting easily at his side. He no longer looked stern, but weathered and contemplative. He watched his son, the heir, move freely between the two worlds. As the wind shifted, carrying the cool, clean scent of the ocean up the valley, Theon felt peace. The mountain was stronger now, because it had learned to yield. The old flaw was buried deep beneath the earth, replaced by the profound, sustaining truth of the wolf's tide. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to this channel for more werewolf shifters, romance stories, and also don't forget to hit the like button.